The multi-age environment gives us the opportunity to organize for learning, to organize for students, rather than organizing based on age and sorting based on age.
One area that I would be very interested in teachers and schools engaging with is questioning some of the colonial structures of organization. One of these is grade levels that have similar, if not identical, aged people all in one grouping. That kind of assumption about age, ability, interest, concern speaks to questions of centering student voice. It speaks to questions about recognizing student abilities and also our own assumptions about what we believe a 10-year-old could do versus what an 8-year-old could do. One of the most valuable experiences I found was having older students working with and engaging with younger students. And sometimes this meant intentionally mixing classroom compositions. Sometimes it meant we have a buddy system and our older 8th grade students might go down and work with kindergartners, maybe read a book with them, whatever the engagement was. One of the reasons that I think this is such a beneficial practice for teachers, for students, for families and communities is because it much more accurately portrays the experience young people have outside of school. They are constantly engaging with their family members. They are constantly checking in on their younger cousins, younger brothers and sisters. And it's valued as a characteristic that you care about your younger siblings. You're responsible for them. So what an amazing thing to be able to demonstrate that and potentially celebrate that in the space of a classroom. Having students connect at various levels, at various ages, in various ways to demonstrate the significance of community, to demonstrate the significance of relationships, to demonstrate the significance of kinship that can occur, and value that as the central organizing principle, rather than what to me appears to be a arbitrary but colonial designation of grade 1 is this, grade 2 is this, grade 3 is this.
It's not so much as I'm thinking based on the grade 1s need this, the kindergartners need this. What does each child need and where are they starting from? Where are we getting them to? And so I'm less thinking about this is grade 1 time, this is kindergarten time, these are the grade 1 books, this is kindergarten books, and more as what each child needs. And when I'm grouping them, I'm not grouping them by grade 1 or by kindergarten, I'm grouping them by, depending on the subject, randomly a lot of the time, but by need-based some of the time, by social-based some of the time, whatever would work best in that scenario. And I think that when you're thinking about differentiation for learning, it's really about ensuring that each child is in that sweet spot for learning where they're being challenged but not too challenged, but it's not too easy, and we're all moving along. And I think self-assessment as a core kind of tenet really helps with that because they can place themselves where they need to be a lot of the time, and I can be there to make sure that they're accurate, which is important.
Research shows us and demonstrates that multi-age classrooms have really great potential to support students, to build community, and to also have deeper and more productive relationships with family members and caregivers.
My biggest thing is building a community. So you'll see by my desk setup, 2 long kind of banquet style desks gives them an opportunity to work with each other and talk with each other and learn how to collaborate with people beside them that they might not necessarily get along with or even like. And that's the basis, so building that community and those relationships, and then once we have that and they know that they're in a safe place to learn no matter what level they're at and be accepted by the other kids is what just seems to make it work.
I guess it's just really fun because there's 2 classrooms and usually they'd be separated by one giant door, but they took the door down. So like we basically get a huge classroom with like lots of people in it, and it's just nice to have so much people.
Having students for the 3 years, we get to know the families very well. Some of our students have siblings that we have also taught for the 3 years, and so we look to families as part of the team.
I think it's really nice that Miss Hislop and Miss Lee came together and created a cohort 1, because we can all just work together and travel in one big group, and we're basically like a family at this point because everybody knows each other so well.
One key concept in multi-age classrooms is the concept of looping, of staying with a group of kids over 2 or 3 years. When we look at the looping research, what we see is that teachers play a mentoring role over time and can support learning over time, and that there's not learning or potential lost as we're getting to know a new group of students, but instead we're picking up where we left off and supporting students to grow from where they are over time and really contextualize and be responsive in our teaching.
I also think allowing students time and going back to that family piece, because we're looping with the same families and with the same students as well as being multi-grade, then you're able to build that connection, and sometimes students just need longer than the 10 months that they have to build that connection. They're starting the next year already established and with us. So.
With the 3 grades, we do a 3-year cycle, so it's not just this year or this term, we are thinking the longer term, so that is helpful as well. So we have these students or this student for the 3 years, and so it's that going back, that looping back. So within the planning, we can be flexible.
There's the mentorship piece and the getting to know people you may not necessarily have done so otherwise, so providing that space. And then the multi-years, so creating that community, that deep community sense, and then just building on that year after year. Then we don't have to necessarily put those labels on. They just are learning where they're at, and everybody is doing the same thing. They're learning where they're at and exactly where they need to be, and working towards moving their learning forward. And the piece of having students for multiple years is, again, that piece of they're coming back to the same space, the same people, the same teachers, and things just feel consistent. And that's how you build strong connection. And it's exciting, and to be able to build those deep connections, not only with the students, but with the families, building this amazing community together, it just feels like a more holistic way to partner with families and, raising children.
And, having that extra year with them as big kids, as, intermediates, it's grade 4 is a hard year for most kids anyways. That transition from primary to intermediate. They're not quite big kids, but they're definitely not little kids. I think everybody wants everybody reading by 3, but there's a lot of kids that are not.
They're not.
We're noticing, especially in our 4s, they just seem so small in September of grade 4. And then by Christmas, we're starting to see them be these amazing leaders and these, these people who can stand on their own 2 feet and advocate for themselves. And
we have an overall theme for the year to kind of help focus us. I think part of the process too is to cut things out. Say, what does this group of students not need? We have to then, we do this mapping, we have ideas, and then we say, what do our students, these families need right now? And what do we not need to worry about? Because there's so much there, and because we loop them. That's actually a key part to planning too that I think we often forget about. You can't do it all, so that has to be part of the process.
Yeah, we have some students that are not there yet, and so then we cut that out for that student or for that group of students. And because we loop, because they're with us for the 3 years, we can go back. And so that's the beauty of these multi-age.
It's liberating for the teacher. It is about letting go of all the things that we should do and the content that we have to cover. We talk now in BC about uncovering the curriculum rather than covering the curriculum. It allows us to be able to engage with inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, ways of celebrating, showcasing learning in multiple and multimodal ways.
With multi-age, I think in any environment, but especially outside, you really have to learn to let go and hold everything with open hands and allow yourself to be interrupted.
And it seems like when we're out there, we don't notice there's a grade 5, there's a grade 6, there's grade 7. They're just students. That's the leveling effect of being outside. As much as possible, we try to tie in the teaching with the beautiful place that we have here. And all the students, no matter where they come from, they can have that connection to place. So during our walk, you can see just how connected, how excited, and how engaged the students are just when they're outside. And they're learning about their social studies and science and math right here in this place. So I think that also lends itself to accepting all of these students from different places and different grades as well.
Just walking across the dike with the fresh air. Just like drawing like landscapes, and sometimes we even get to draw like grass or like flowers.
The trickiest part is probably balancing curriculum of just the curriculum's already so beautifully complex and vast, and when you add 2 into the room or sometimes 3 or 4 into the room, especially in the big content subjects like social studies or science, that's a lot to cover. But I really value the year plan, and I really value doing unit plans for everything I'm doing. For me, that's what works, is just taking my themes and figuring out not so much exactly what I need them to do and everything, but those kind of broad concepts to make sure we're not leaving anything. And then in that you can plan an A-B schedule. So if I'm doing half of the science curriculum for both grades this year, then I do the other half next year. And so they're getting everything, but it takes longer, but I have them for longer, so it works on that one.
Well, I think learning has to be always based on a context. And this curriculum allows you to look at the context, look at your students, look at what they need, what their strengths are, where you are, and meet them where they're at and challenge them where they need to be challenged. I've not done so much research on the estuary, right? Like it is hard. You have to learn content. You have to learn things. It's definitely tricky because you have to become an expert in what is needed. So it's not easy, but you're able to figure out what is needed for this particular context, for these people, for these sets of skills.
It's not easy, but I think it's flexible because you've got your content and you got the curricular skills, and you can tie those in.
And I think also focusing on the skills. I think perhaps there was a perspective on content over skills, whereas content is important, but we start first with the skills and what really is needed with the skills, and that's really what's driving us, and we're using the content to learn those skills, but a student or a person can learn what content they need as long as they have those skills too. So I think sometimes if it's overwhelming, just shift to the skills a little bit first and then flesh in the content.
Yeah, awesome, thank you.
When we think about allowing our learners to celebrate and to learn at their own pace, multi-age classrooms really open up the possibility of differentiated instruction in a way that's really meaningful. And when we look at a common curriculum where students are provided with multiple entry points, which is built into the nature of that program, we're removing some of those barriers that are presented when we have grade level classrooms, where students are expected to meet certain standards within this space, but rather that students are able to come to every learning task and find a space where they are going to thrive. And so they're able to continue to grow and to nurture their own skills and identities within that process by walking along those who are just starting and being able to look forward to those who may be at the end of that journey. And so it really is beautiful in terms of the doors that it opens and the way in which it really allows our students to be themselves and to feel confident in that.
Okay, so remember.
I know that if it's something that needs to be read, I have to think about my learners and whether they're able to do it. So then is this a partner activity or a whole group activity? I know that there's a lot of kiddos that have the wiggles, and so is it something that will get them up and moving? Also, there's a lot of flexible seating in here, so once I give an assignment or a task, lots of times you will see them just kind of scatter, and they've found a spot that they can work together or on their own. I'm not a big worksheet, sit at your desk. Yeah, I try to make it fun and have them all different modes of learning.
If we've noticed anything in terms of the leadership programs that we're running within our schools, the work that we've seen within multi-age classrooms, is that students thrive when they are able to take on mentorship roles and they're able to lean into their gifts and to share them with younger generations. And younger students really do thrive in areas where they're able to showcase their skills in unique and diverse ways with those who they admire, with those who are on a slightly different journey but walking the same path. And when we think about multi-age classrooms, it really does allow for that continuity of care where we're able to nurture these really meaningful relationships because students are coming together year after year and able to continue to nurture those connections and to offer that support and leadership and mentorship in different ways.
The older kids in a multi-age classroom are kids who have already got experience in some of the learning, and they mentor and support and help the younger kids. It really changes the dynamic of a classroom when you have learners from a variety of different ages, all with that singular purpose around we are learning together. We are having fun learning. And the peer interactions, and we know that peers learn so much from one another. So when our focus in a multi-age classroom is based on learning, the peers become this incredible support for one another.
Well, sometimes, because I have a little trouble with math, I can ask my friend who's sitting next to me. If he's in grade 7, then I can ask them, hey, can you help me with this question? I'm kind of having a little trouble on it, or they can help me. I really like that. And also, because a lot of the grade 5s come and they ask like the grade 6s and 7s for help, and I feel really like useful when they ask for help.
Our first year was grade 1, 2, 3, and then we had 5 grade 4s the second year.
Yeah.
And there were multiple reasons that these 5 grade 4s were to stay with us, and they just helped us so much become a pillar of our classroom community in, grouping wise and like trusting, those big kids to go and do something kind of further away on their own. Or, trusting them to be, at the back of the bus or at the back of the line, or having those extra responsibilities that brings a weight off of us. So that's one piece that I really cherish about our grade 4s is really putting that ownership and leadership on them and then taking on that extra responsibility.
So far I've been fortunate in that I have kids twice, so back-to-back years. And I see such a difference between the students that have been with me already a year. They know my expectations and my rules and, the classroom management. And so they are really good at helping make sure that the littler guys are also following along. They set an example for the younger students.
Multi-age classrooms allow students who have been in that class for more than 1 year to be mentors to other students, to really distribute ownership for learning and share ownership for learning in terms of what we're doing. And they also cause us to think about what are the big things that we're exploring and how do we weave or draw content into those big ideas versus sometimes more linear teaching that happens in single grade classrooms that often doesn't make space for everyone to enter into the learning and to have ownership of their learning.
I really like that I can work with any grade that I want, and I can kind of get a head start on like the math and the kind of lessons that I'm going to do when I'm older. And I really like that, so I can kind of get a hint on like the tricks that I can use.
I think it's really nice because you get to meet a lot of new, different people. They may not be the same age as you, but they might have different opinions or ideas about things that you hadn't known yet, so you get to learn a lot of new things. It's fun.
It's one thing for me to be modeling problem-solving skills and regulating skills, but it's quite another for kids to be seeing that in action from their peers. And I find in September, if you're a kindergarten teacher and you're starting in September, you've got a whole room full of babies and they're like little kittens. But when you start September in a K1 class, the kindergartens are looking to those grade ones who have had a whole year already of working with that and practicing that and playing and learning. And so they can see what their peers are doing. And it's kind of magical how they just kind of fall in. And a lot of it you don't even have to be explicit with because they're seeing. I mean, one of the tenets of the First People's Principles of Learning is learning occurs through observation. So multi-ages provides so many opportunities for that, which is exciting.
Rural classrooms are often multi-age classrooms. Sometimes we think of rural education from a deficit perspective, but research suggests the opposite. Research suggests that multi-age rural classrooms are more responsive to the learners that are in them, that you have a relationship with those students over time, and that you as a teacher really play a mentoring role in coaching, supporting, helping students develop metacognition, and really creating a community that spans over time, that's across years, and that really centers everyone in that space as contributors.